And let's get this party on the road. Spawning up here in the top left position of Romanticide to start things off. Give it up for Cure. And his opponent down here in the bottom side, he is Astrea. Not to be confused with the country or the kangaroo country. Both are different countries, as I have been told by geography class. Now, to start things off, it looks like it's going to be a pretty standard opening from both sides. I don't really see them going crazy against each other in the first half of this kind of series, just because this is a smaller tournament. It's the Pro Cups. It's only a best of 3, so kind of going crazy early on does mean that you really put yourself up for a lot of chances to kind of lose your edge as the series goes on, and you don't really have a buffer for losing any sort of game. Now we do see Astrea are going to take kind of a first little bit of a delay here for Cure. He will force that command center to be just a little bit late, which is pretty good, especially considering that Cure doesn't have any units available to him right now. He went straight for the reactor. No Marines, no factory coming up. So he's a little bit vulnerable here, even just to one probe. A good pullback, though, is going to make sure that he does not lose the SCV. And coming back into it, we do see that it is a factory. So, again, nothing really too crazy. But I think Astrea might be wanting to be a little bit aggressive here. We do see 2 Stalkers on the production tab. Even going to cancel one so he can get that Twilight Council out much, much quicker. And this is going to be a little point of contention for Cure. He has to recognize that this is going on in order to stay safe, because versus Blink Stalkers, you need some sort of AoE. You need something to kind of weaken down these units, because as you can see, the Stalkers do outrange the Marines, and it can be a little bit difficult to kind of take even consistent fights with good micro. See the Adept at home just kind of chilling out. The third gateway is down, and the Stalker is going to make its way in. The units are actually way out of position. It looks like Cure looking for that Stalker, but won't be able to find it. The Hellion does get revealed as well, so Astrea will get out of there, but again, this puts a little bit of pressure on Cure to react after seeing all of this. Robo facility in the background. Looks like the Stalker does get caught out on the map, but it will be able to survive. Just going to be a little bit less useful for the next fight. Now, the big question here is, how hard is Astrea going to commit to this? Right now, we still don't see that third Nexus in, because he is pumping all of his economy into the Stalkers. But honestly, the longer this goes on, the better it gets for Cure. Already we see his drop getting ready to go. The War Prism is getting chrono boosted out, but I don't know. Might not hit before that Widowmine makes its way in. The wall is still down as well, so that Hellion can make its way in if it wants to, although it doesn't really have a lot of health available to him. Looks like that might have been spotted, but Astrea is still out of position. He's hanging out down here. So yeah, I guess he didn't really see it. So Cure going to be able to make his way in, but is Astrea paying attention is the big question. A little bit of a late pull, but he does manage to get it away. Only one probe going down. Oh, might lose the medevac as well. That is a huge pick off there. But at the end of the day, Astrea is able to mitigate a lot of that damage. And as we can see, he is getting ready for his attack. The Stalkers warping in on this side. Again, there's no splash. There's one siege tank on the high ground now, but it's not ready to defend all points of entry. Here we go. He manages to get right on in outside of siege tank range. He doesn't want to chase this army right now. Instead, he wants to go straight for the mineral line, if anything. But the little bit of a delay here will allow Kier to get his second siege tank out. So Astrea, not wanting to lose these units, will have to deflect. A little bit of a run by here on the natural. Going to do quite a bit of work. 5 workers already going down, but he will have to recall those out. Looks like he's not going to do so just yet. Instead, just going to kind of keep him here to force Kier to stay at home. War Prism going to be coming in. 8 workers will go down, but that is a lot of damage done to those stalkers, so they won't be too useful for the next engagement. So overall, not game-ending damage by any stretch of the imagination, but now Astrea does have a nice little chokehold on Kier for the meantime. Kier can't really move out, as he would get found by those stalkers. Astrea as well is going to have a 1 base advantage and is going up to Templar Archive. Storm is on the way. So obviously he's already set up for the next stage of his game. He is going to be sticking with very heavy gateway aggression, which can be a pretty good strategy. But as the Terran player starts to go up to that 3rd base, as he starts to get more production, better tier units, and those upgrades, it's not going to do as well. So I really hope that throughout all of this, Astrea does commit a little bit to kind of getting either Colossus or disruptors, just something else to keep this army going. Stalkers, though, going to get a couple of nice pickoffs here, just trying to delay this push from Kier. Needs to get just a few more units in order to defend. Looks like Kier is just going to take the bait that a bigger army is nearby. Huge storm going to blanket this. At the end of the day, that Kier is not going to overextend himself. He's not going to go in unless he knows he can win. A big drop here by Astrea as well, taking away a lot of attention from the front. Astrea, though, did lose 3 of those zealots, so that is 300 minerals. And I'll say at this point, on 3 bases, they are a bit more expendable. I do like the fact that Astrea is consistently just getting these small bits of damage in as they force the reinforcements to remain at home, taking away a lot of power from the pushes of Kier. Kier as well just getting his 3rd base on location right about now, trying to catch up in that regard. Kind of take a look at the income here. It is currently in Astrea's favor, but the mules kind of helping out to keep it equal. The Warp Prism still there? I think it is. But now we see Astrea moving on in for his next big attack. He does have a bigger army. He does have a lot of splash. The spread is good from Kier. I don't know if this is going to be the best position to fight in. Drops the High Templar right on top. The War Prism does go down, however, so these Stalkers and the couple of High Templar in the back are all he has left. That was definitely not the fight you want to take as Astrea. The Storms, last little bits of the Storms, going to take out a lot of those medevacs, though. So just trying to do the best with what he's got left. Unfortunately, he is going to have to remake that entire army right now. My God, that was a fight and a half. If you take a look at that army size, Kier for the first time going to be ahead. So now another big problem for Astrea. When you're going heavy gateway, you need those upgrades to be relatively consistent with your opponents. And right now, he just doesn't have that. He is down a whole upgrade chain. Although, a saving grace for him is that Kier doesn't even have the armor yet, so he will be able to catch up in that regard. Not a whole lot going on right now. Just some small little skirmishes getting set up. Interesting place. That is for certain. Did see a small Widow Mine drop as well getting ready here as Kira just spamming the ghost key. Trying to make sure he has enough EMPs for the fight. One Seachank will go down. The second one not really gonna be super helpful. He does take out 4 of his own units. And so 4 more SCVs will add to the tally. Take a look at the units lost here. 17 have gone down. One Widow Mine will be able to go down. Astrea not going to be able to pull in time. And so he will lose 4 workers. But he's on 4 bases. Cure is still on 3. So it's going to come down to one big engagement for Cure to be able to take this fight. Now, another big thing to note for Astrea is that he is trying to transition into the Stargate play right now. So that is going to take quite a bit of minerals, quite a bit of gas away from restructuring his army. Meaning that what you see on the field is almost completely what he's going to be having for a bit. Yeah, there you go. Fleet Beacon goes on down, so he's going to be making that transition. But that is going to be a long time coming, giving Cure a whole mess of room to play with. The Fleet Beacon, like I said, High Templar gonna get a couple of good feedbacks in on some of those ghosts from the high ground. Gonna blanket the army, but it will survive and will be able to back up and just heal. I think the biggest problem for Cure is he really hasn't been on Astrea's side of the map for a very long time. He has been very defensive with his playstyle right here, not even sending any sort of drops around. And so, while that does make sure that he maintains his army, it's just allowed Astrea to explode in multiple different ways. What am I not going to be able to get too much done here? But there's no observer for this. Oh my goodness, that's a small bit of a mistake. Have to keep an eye on that Widow Mine, see if it gets to go off again. Actually, are there any observers on the field right now? He does have one, but it's all the way over here. Ooh, that's not going to be too well if that Widow Mine is allowed to go off again. Okay, photon cannon. There we go. But here we go. Cure's first big push. First EMP goes down, getting rid of one of those High Templar. The second one blanketing the Zealots. Just trying to force those Widow Mines to fire off. Astrea being very patient right now. We'll be able to pull some into one of those ghosts. But here we go. The storms are pretty good, but the ghost getting rid of the rest of the storms. This is still a doable position for Astrea, but Cure is looking to just steamroll this location, being very patient with his move up. The carriers as well going to help out a lot in the front, and there's just not enough Terran here. The Zealots able to charge forward, able to get right on top of this. The kiting is pretty good, and Astrea does have a supply deficit, but unfortunately Cure has lost all forward momentum. We see him trying to bring the reinforcements back in, but that is just so much time for Astrea to re-max himself. Losing the Widow Mines as well does take away a little bit of firepower here. And the biggest thing to note is he still has all 3 carriers. That number is just going to continue to climb. The observer goes down. Cure trying to rotate around, looking for an opening. Just not able to find one anywhere. So Cure does have access to his Vikings now. He has quite a few of them, but they don't really have a ton of upgrades. Only +1 attack right now. He needs a couple more just to make sure he stays pretty level with his opponent. Things have quieted down. It's more a calm before the storm situation right now. Both sides kind of just powering back up. Kira close to max out. Astrea relying on slower to build units, so that's why he's not fully maxed. EMP gonna go down, but one storm will be able to get off on this army. The Warpin not gonna be in time, so this base is highly under threat. And since Astrea is not very mobile with this force, he is gonna lose that. Another little wraparound on the top side as well. Gonna get rid of his 5th base. Now Astrea gonna be struggling for minerals here. A very good move from Cure. You can kind of see Astrea deciding that the time to move out is now. He's got to make do with what he has. EMP's going to blanket these carriers, and they will go down to the Vikings. And I think, honestly, from here, that might just be it for Astrea. There you have it. GG is called. And so Cure will take first blood in this series as we move on to Oxide for map number 2. All right. So, looks like it was a gas first opening here from Cure. Gonna allow him to just kind of tech up a little bit quicker. Get up to his factory, maybe go up to a faster starport, and kind of just play on 1-1-1 for a little bit while he gets up to his 3rd base. And we do see Astrea coming in. Gonna be a little bit of a nuisance once again. He does like to kind of send this guy in just to kind of force a reaction out of Cure, but so far looks like he's not really gonna get too big of one. He sees the refinery. He probably counted the amount left or clicked on it, so he knows that this was probably a gas first. And as well, he sees the fact that the reactor is down without any sort of marines, so he can stay for a little bit longer and just kind of get a full-on scout. So Cure is just going to go straight up to additional marines here. We do see the change from Astrea going for the Adept first, which does tell me that he's saving a little bit of his gas, meaning that more than likely, I think he's going to go up to Stargate. Never mind, ignore me. It is going to be Twilight Council once again. We'll have to see how he decides to follow this up. Keep an eye on the timing of the Robo facility, because that's going to tell you whether he's going to be aggressive with it or if he's going to just stay back and use it defensively. You see this first Adept kind of just hanging out the front, gonna try and keep these Marines at home. Cure is paying attention. He will get that wall up. And yeah, there you go. It's gonna be Blink. But yeah, this time I don't see the Robo facility anywhere on the map, so that kind of tells you that, yeah, he's just going to stay passive with this. He's only got 2 gateways as well. So I am totally getting this guy wrong. One big thing to see here is that Cure does have 3 racks right now. He has not gone up to factory. Astrea really needs to see that this is indeed the case, because this is a build that's not really strong versus Blink Stalker openings. If Astrea sees the gateways, he knows he can just hold on for the first attack, and that he's going to have a very solid counterattack ready to go. Also, as well, getting up to his third base very, very quickly is going to help out with that economy. Going to keep him ahead of Cure, who will be stuck on 2 bases for quite a bit of time since he's invested so much into this. Ooh. The Adept does make its way in, and that is going to prompt a very big reaction here from Astrea. Going to try and delay some of that mining with those SCVs. Only gets one of them. But now Astrea needs to take the high ground. He needs to start dropping a couple of shield batteries in key defensive locations. And he needs to just hold on and delay this push. Taking a lot of damage on those first couple of Stalkers. A little bit late on the blinks, but he does keep all of them alive. Sacrificing the high ground here might just force a cancel on this Nexus, but Cure not focusing it down. He is... his units getting further and further in the red. They will start to have stim here in just a little bit. Astrea is going to keep that Nexus. He's not going to cancel it. That might be a mistake. Yeah, that is almost certainly going to go down here, but that is going to be the end of a big part of Cure's army. He is sacrificing almost everything. Going to bring in the rest of the Marines to do what they can. But trying to fight, decide between the Stalkers and the Nexus. Again, that's just going to cost Cure a lot of his units. He does get the third base, though. And that is 400 minerals down the drain for Astrea. Gotta say, all things considered, Astrea is trading out relatively well here with these Stalkers. The fact that he does have this Observer up here for the high ground vision is helping out quite a lot. And yeah, Cure is running out of steam here, although it doesn't really look like it. A couple more Warpins should be enough to kind of finish this out. He's focusing down the Marauders. And there you have it. I'd say this is a hold, but yeah, 6 workers going down. Still got a little ways to go to clean this up, as Cure is continuously reinforcing this with those Marauders. Colossus is on the way. The first one should signal the end of this. Still being very cautious with his stims is Cure. But there you go. The Colossus comes out, and that is going to shoo this away. So now Cure does have his medevacs on the way. He's got his factory getting up to Tech Lab. But Astrea, I think if he would have been able to move across the map a little bit earlier to pick off reinforcements and kind of just stop that push a little bit sooner, he'd be in a much better spot. But he doesn't even really have the power to kind of delay Cure's next push. I think from here, Astrea is just going to have to come back, play it a little bit more defensive, get that third base properly mining, as Cure does have his own third up and ready to drop. But overall, this game is still miles away from being done. If we take a look at the units lost tab here, still in Astrea's favor. When behind Dark Shrine, this is going to be a very nice little move here. Although we do have missile turrets and scans available. If he can kind of just trickle the DTs in the background to kind of pull away Cure's attention, that's going to be his best way of utilizing them effectively. Phoenix going to come in, just kind of get full confirmation that that third base is not in that location. But I don't think he's really seen the fact that it was a third base at all, so he might be thinking that this is a little bit more all-in than he thinks, but good force field's going to mitigate a lot of that army from getting forward. The siege tanks, though, going to rain hellfire on this army, and Astrea will be forced back. But does Cure have the ability to keep this pushing forward? So far, the answer is not really. He's keeping it slow and surely as he gets that little puddle of red coming in to reinforce. The DTs, one going to stay with the army, the rest going to sneak around. Funnily enough, this does mean that they will run straight into that army. Stalkers, though, moving a little bit too far forward. The Marauders doing what they can to get on top of the Colossus. One of them will go down. Unfortunately, though, Astrea does reveal the fact that he has DTs with that fight. And now Cure, with a 30 army supply advantage, is going to continue the push. The Vikings on the high ground just wailing away on the Colossus, but there's not enough of them to make it go quick. The shield battery overcharge a bit far from where Astrea is fighting. Does manage to get one of the siege tanks, though, with the DT. So awesome little move right there. He's pretty much just got to keep this going, or keep this push far enough away. And I do like this. Like I said, just trickling in the DTs forces out these scans. It forces Cure to lose the ability to drop those mules. You also see in the background one DT going to get a couple of additional worker kills. And this is exactly how you have to do it as Astrea. Another big scan going to go down, but not before the siege tank does fall. A good concave by the Protoss, followed with a beautiful force field, is going to force this back, and Astrea is tightening that gap between army supplies. Looks like the War Prism does make its way undetected here as Cure trying to move towards the fourth. The army is in position, however. Oxide is a bit easy to defend this high ground, so Cure not really going to be able to push his luck in there. Really can't afford to do so. Oh, catches the War Prism, though. That is a very nice pickoff for Cure. Gotta take a look at how everything else is going here. Currently, we have 4 Colossi on the field. He does have the Templar Archives, I believe. No, he doesn't actually. So that is going to be a little bit of a trouble. You need to start transitioning. Archons are going to be pretty important for this fight. But here we go. Astrea going to get about half the army here. The Guardian Shield has popped, but it's not going to be enough to kind of fight this. The DT as well, just kind of wailing away. But Astrea will be able to get on top of this. It's going to be a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory, however. It's going to sacrifice quite a few units to make it work. As well, just going to leave himself open up here. The Stalkers need that recall in order to hold. So Cure is forced back, and Astrea takes the supply lead for the first time in a while. Astrea as well is going to have that +3 attack very, very soon. Getting that second forge up to keep kind of equal. He needs to start getting some armor upgrades before Cure decides to go up 2-3-3. Now, both players are still a bit broke as neither side has been able to max out, but we do have Ghosts joining the fray for Cure. Looks like Astrea being very cautious here. He does have a very big DT run by, though, ready to go on top of the fourth. That is going to be a very quick kill if he can get it while this army is moving out. Big EMP going to blanket this force, but Astrea is just doing a fighting retreat here. War Prism gets a little bit too far forward, but it will survive. And the DTs with a very quick kill on the planetary. The Colossus still willing away in the back. And I think Cure might start to run out of steam here a little bit, but they good EMP. Gotta get rid of those DTs. Stalker's going to get rid of a lot of that siege tank fire, allowing the Colossi to get close enough. And as this army goes down, Cure still has the army supply lead. He still has a couple of EMPs available to him, but Astrea should have enough to hold on. Yeah, Cure just moving a little bit too far forward here. Will be able to get one of the Colossi, but at the end of the day, this momentum is gone. Both sides deciding to back off, reinforce their armies. Disruptors are on the way, and that is pretty dangerous here for Cure. Kind of forces him into positions where he's going to have to fight in very open areas, which will allow Zealots to get on top, have a lot of ground area on this army. It's going to allow for quite a bit of room on those Colossi that are still left over. Do see a couple of DTs making their way in here. We'll get rid of the missile turret. Shadow Stride going to keep one of those DTs alive as well. So he's going to be able to use that to go straight back in. Up here, a couple of EMPs on the Stalkers, but there's just not enough here to really fight that, as he does decide to back on out. So now Astrea, up in terms of supply, down in terms of that army supply, but he does have a bit of a superior army, all things told. He's as well keeping a lot of these reinforcements back by kind of trickling in these DTs, just forcing him to not have a full strength army in the front. Looks like Astrea as well wants to take a little bit of blood, but Cure doing a good job of keeping him back as well. So it's kind of just like a Mexican standoff here between these two sides. Not gonna get anything with that, and that does reveal the Disruptors. This base fully mining, shield battery overcharge, gonna keep it alive. And now Astrea, still not really knowing if there's another army up here, is gonna keep a majority of his forces to the top side. That's actually his main base here on that low ground expansion. He moved that over as soon as he lost the planetary. Stalker's gonna move a little bit too far forward. That is a ballsy move here from Astrea. A huge hit as well, going to get rid of a lot of those Stalkers. Recall is forced, but over here the Zealot run by is going to get rid of 12 additional workers. So Cure down to just 35 of them, mining on only his top 3 bases, which he's had since the beginning. And those positions are very exposed since they are not planetaries. Zealots gonna warp in up here, but he's just gonna sacrifice this base. He has more than enough of them in order to do so. And now Astrea getting ready for what could be a killing blow if he gets rid of the army right here, right now. Gonna very easily get rid of this base at the very least. Cure trying to fight where he can. The force field's not the greatest to start things off, as it does let the majority of the army in. But there's just not a lot left here for our red Terran player. Astrea will have to back on out, but he's deflected over here, so he can just bring the rest of his army over. And Cure below 100 supply, below 90 supply even, will take quite a bit more damage. And you can kind of see this is a bit of a desperation push. Just has to get something done, but that's going to cost him a lot of these medevacs. The reinforcement's going to get cleaned up by these zealots as well. So, yeah, I just don't know how Cure can really recover from this. That's going to be the cookie crumbling, as Cure will have the series tied up against him. As we move on to Lightshade for map number 3. So yeah, a lot of the same is going on here. Once again, it's going to be that fact that gas first, which does tell me that Cure probably going to just do another reactor timing with this. He did change it up in the last game to the 3 racks. But I think on Lightshade, I think this doesn't really work too well for the 3 racks. Instead, though, he is going to get that Marine first just to deal with this first probe across the map. I do like that a little bit better, just because, you know, he just wants to kind of get rid of any sort of distractions in the early game. Now, as for Astrea, he does have his own Nexus down. He has been pretty consistent with the Twilight Council. And again, Lightshade, a smaller map. The rush distance not that long. You can get a lot of work done in the early game with that. And I definitely think that's exactly where he's going to be going in this game. Not going to really change things up too much. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oh, the jukes. Unfortunately, though, it still has to get away from the back of the mineral line here, so that Marine will be able to get it. So close and yet so far. But we do see Cure going to be changing things up again. He's going for the Hellion drops. Now, Astrea has no idea that this is coming. He will have the Twilight Council again this time, though. But he won't have Blink by the time this makes its way into his own main. The Adepts, though, if they can kind of spot this, that's all he really needs to see in order to just kind of wall this off, keep the Hellions from going in another direction. Excuse me. And yeah, I do like this build. It's a really nice little way to get that early game damage. About 77 to 8 probe kills is the magic number. And looks like the Stalker's not in position. The warp gate is not done either, so he's not going to be able to warp in. Gonna need to recall here. But this is a lot of damage done. Already 6 workers going down, an 8th to follow. And not even going to lose that one Hellion. Oh, not going to pick that up is Cure. So he will lose 2 of those Hellions. But at the end of the day, 10 workers, definitely worth it. And now that starport is making the long migration home. Looks like these first Adept, after getting caught so off guard, he wants to keep a little bit of tabs on a Cure right now. Taking a look at things, he will be going up to that second Rax, but I don't see a third one on the way. So Cure is cutting a little bit of his corners in doing so here, just to make sure that he has enough minerals to go up to his third. Yeah, see that even a little bit later on that third rack, so it does delay some of these upgrades that you need to go for, including combat shield. A little bit of a feint out here as there are no Hellions in that drop. So just kind of playing mind games here with Astrea. He will be able to catch one of these Hellions. But I'm wondering how much he really knows here. You can kind of see, yeah, he's seen the second Rax. He hasn't seen the third just yet. Oh my god, he uses Diva. But this one Hellion gonna come in, gets a kill. Nothing really too crazy here. It does take 3 shots of a Hellion to kill a probe. And from here, Astrea's just kind of powering up, going straight into Storm, which we did see in game number 1. I like it, but it does start to lose power as the Terran player kind of techs up, kind of expands out and gets more minerals available to him. That being said, however, we don't see a third base from Cure. Yeah, not a single one right now. Astrea as well, going to be able to make his way in. The siege tank not in position to stop this. Sim is not complete as well, so he can just recall out after getting 3 worker kills here. Now he does have units on 2 different locations, so he does know that there is no third base. So he knows he has the time to kind of power up, build up a little bit more. And yeah, this is going to be a scary timing for Cure because, again, he doesn't really have a lot behind this. He is almost all in, I want to say. Does catch the Stalkers. There is no recall available, so they will have to fly home, or walk home, rather. Storm is about to complete. How many High Templar does he have? He has 2 Storms available to him here. Gonna find a position down here on the low ground. Gonna be able to depower one of those gateways and actually supply blocks Astrea. Now the Stalkers are still out on the map. They are still picking off some of these reinforcements, preventing Cure from reinforcing this push. First Storm gonna blanket the army in the high ground, but he's gonna lose the Twilight Council. So huge pickoffs here for Cure right now. Another big Storm, not really going to get it too much here. But here we go. Astrea being very patient with this fighting force. The Stalker's coming in on the low ground, gets rid of the siege tanks, and he will be able to clean this up, but at what cost, Kalaris? Spended quite a bit to make that work. He's left the Medivacs alive in the main base, so he's gonna have to keep some units there to defend. Zealot's in the front, taking a huge Widowmine shot as well. Cure is below 100 supply, however, keep in mind, and he's only just now dropped his 3rd CC. He doesn't have a Ghost of Academy available to him, so a lot of that forward momentum is now gone. But Astrea doesn't really have enough to kind of push forward, to kind of keep this attack going. So he will have to stay defensive here while powering up. Not even paying attention to that Widowmine shot. Oof. Just small mistakes here and there from both sides, keeping this game rolling along. That's a big Doom drop. Now, Astrea does have units in position here. The recall is forced on those Stalkers. And, yeah, Cure just lost a lot here for not a lot of gain. Storming his own Stalkers, though, that is pretty funny. 9 workers will go down. At the end of the day, Cure lost a majority of his army. Take a look at the army size. Yeah. That's a pretty big one. So now a little bit like the Storm has entered the eye. We are just waiting for the next big push here as we got Astrea gearing up for a drop. We have Cure dropping tons of ghosts available to him. He's even getting a Viking to counteract what he believes to be a Colossus switch. Unfortunately, though, he doesn't have his units in position here, and that supply depot not finished either. But a big warp in the main is going to take away quite a bit of Cure's army. Do have in the front, though, another big push. Keeping one High Templar forward. He does have a feedback available for the Ghost, and he will utilize it. 10 workers have fallen, but the Warp Prism is shooed away. Oh my gosh, a game of pixels right there as it survives. But here we go. Next big move, Disruptors on the way. Gotta say, if I have to like one side over the other, I do like Cure's army just a little bit more. Although that was a very nice move. Feedbacking some of these ghosts, taking away a lot of push potential with this force. If Astrea can kind of keep that up, keep the EMPs from hitting his army, I do think he's going to do quite well in this next fight. A big storm going down over a lot of this army, and Cure has to retreat through the choke point. Loses a ghost in doing so, but the Widowmine will soften up a lot of these zealots. Astrea being very loose with these High Templar here. Another feedback going to go down. Army still gets blanketed with the EMPs, however. Disruptors making it very difficult for Cure to move forward. And here we go. Another big disruptor shot over there. The storms blanketed the army. The zealots pushing their way through. Cure's supply is starting to plummet here. He has a decent concave. Will stop the disruptor shot from going on down. At the end of the day, there is just a little bit too much Protoss here, I think. As yeah, the storms gonna be the deciding factor here, although he gets a disruptor for free. Now Cure, he might be below 100 supply, but he is going to keep this push going. He doesn't want to give Astrea the time to reinforce. And sacrificing a couple of medevacs to make that happen. We do see a small zealot run by as well, getting ready to strike the third base, but Cure has the sense that this is coming. And I gotta say, things are starting to heat up here. I doubt we'll be too long without action from now on. Both sides still only on 1-1 upgrades as well, kind of keep in mind, but Astrea is a little bit ahead in terms of that regard. Just cleaning up the minefields as well. Cure rotating around, looking for an opening, but not able to really find one so easily. Oh, this is going to be a very big pinch maneuver here as he brings the units over to defend this zealot run by. It is opening up a concave for the other one, but Astrea is being very patient right now as Cure going for another strike while Astrea is out of position. Looks like Astrea is a little bit distracted here defending this base at the top, but he is going to go in now. The Warp Prism is in the main base, but he hasn't warped anything in on it yet. This is just action all over the place here. The army is cleaned up on the third. The same for Cure. He doesn't really have a lot of forces back at home. Relying on the reinforcements, but the Prism will go down. So now he just has to defend the third. Or natural rather, and that is going to be a tall order because you can't really go down that ramp. We are in a full-on base trade, and I don't really know who's ahead in it. A huge disruptor shot right there, very nice. But back at home, he is going to lose his own natural recall. Might be forced here, as The natural is going to burn down. Yeah, this is still an exciting section here, but the disruptors just really making it difficult to push forward. Looks like the probes have been retreated. The stalkers focusing down the orbital. As soon as that goes down, Cure is essentially trapped. He only has one medevac available to him right now. Big concave here as the SCVs are pulled. High Templar are EMP'd, so they won't have any storms available, but gets another big disruptor shot on the SCVs on the way out. Astrea, with the army supply lead, or excuse me, with the upgrade lead, he lost the army supply lead a bit ago. Now he can just retreat. He can defend his fourth base, which is still mining. Cure is not mining at all. That orbital just desperately needs to be repaired. Cure as well is a bit broke, so no production on his side. Take a look at that income advantage. 1,300 minerals in Astrea's favor. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really know how Cure is going to be able to make his way into it. He's going to have to heavily rely on these mules, but you can only drop so many of them at a time. Astrea is just looking very powerful right here. He needs one big push. He can't afford to give Cure too much time to recover. But look at this, a huge double prong attack ready to go in at a moment's notice. So here we go. Astrea gets the backstab. We'll be able to clean up that orbital command very, very quickly here. That's going to supply block Cure. Loses the army heading up there to defend. Move commands into the disruptor. Now, even though he's being pushed back on this side, he's going to sacrifice his base in order to do so. The ghost does go down. And I think with that, Cure has succumbed to the Protoss. Recall is called up. And as this fight goes down, forces to lift off. And with the medevacs going on down, just trying to do what he can. Tries to fight around the choke point to mitigate some of that concave. I just don't see how he does it from here. Astrea with double the army supply. I think this is his last big huzzah push. He knows what kind of situation he's in. A good EMP gonna blanket the army. But at the end of the day, it's just a little bit too late. GG is called, and Astrea moves on in the ESL Pro Open number 85. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next big event.